in solar generation, but the Electrical Reliability Council of Texas will be heavily impacted by the effects of the eclipse. Now, Solcast projections suggest that should the skies be clear that day, because the eclipse will occur in the middle of the day, okay, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, okay, solar production will suddenly drop from nearly 15,000 megawatts to around 1,000 megawatts. So from 15,000 to 1,000 before returning to normal. It estimates that the overall loss to the grid will be 11.7% of its total daily solar generation. Kuchar says that this would amount to a loss of 16.9 gigawatt hours, enough to power 1.69 billion LED light bulbs, but that further solar projects coming online before April makes it likely this number could be higher. Now, this is the ERCOT's own projections published on March 7th suggest solar output would drop from 99.2% just after noon on April 8th to 7.6% at 1:40 p.m. Now, while the eclipse is expected to affect power generation in other regions, Texas power grid has a larger proportion of its supply generated by solar power, okay? Whereas for grid operators in New York or New England, solar power tends to be limited to residential buildings. Now, this particular ERCOT says it is planning for the eclipse. So it is planning for it because they keep talking about it, so it just makes sense to me. Are you going to plan for it instead of talking about it? Planning for the eclipse and will use available tools to balance the system when it occurs. Let's see, right? For you guys in Texas. In the days and hours leading up to the eclipse, it will be monitoring generation and weather forecasts to ensure demand is met. Okay. A spokesperson for this particular organization told Newsweek that it's working on forecasting models to reflect solar generation on the grid during the eclipse. It does not expect any grid reliability concerns during the eclipse. I'm not sure about that. Okay. No shade, but I'm just kind of wondering. Maybe there's a little bit of shade. It says it previously suffered from strains on the power grid due to extreme weather patterns. Okay, so they're admitting to previous issues. So hopefully they know about it, they're talking about it, anticipating about it. Hopefully with all of that, taking that into account, they will actually come through. Now, in January, it noted that tight grid conditions due to a cold snap increasing the demand. A prolonged heat wave in the summer of 2023 threatened to do the same. So when a solar eclipse occurred in August 2017, the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Scientific and Technical Information estimated that the U.S. lost around a quarter of its solar power generation capacity, but know that it did not cause any operational issues. Okay, good. That's some good news. The challenge for power grid operators is not just the loss of power, but the suddenness with which it happens, which can place strain on transmission, like any larger fluctuations in supply or demand. Then it goes on to say that a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Southern California's Dornsiff College of Letters. That's an interesting long name. Dornsiff College of Letters, Arts and Sciences, not scientists, explained in a March 8th article for The Conversation, because solar power production falls quickly during the eclipse's peak, grid operators may need to tap into reserves at a rate that may strain the electrical transmission lines. To try to keep things running smoothly, grid operators will rely on local reserves and minimize power transfer between grids during the event. He noted that, like other renewable energy sources, solar power was variable. only being generated when the sun was shining. Makes sense. Solar, sun. Yep. And so power grids normally rely on battery storage to bridge the time difference between when the solar power is generated most and when it is needed most, which could also be used in the event of an eclipse, and that would be on April 8th. Alright, welcome back. So we're talking about the solar eclipse of 2024, which is on April 8th. And now in this particular segment, we're going to talk about something that was published March 14th, which probably would have been last Thursday. And it says Texas warns pet owners before the solar eclipse. A Texas judge is urging pet owners to stock up on supplies, in all red, stock up on supplies for their animals in advance of the solar total. Okay, the total, let me get that right, solar eclipse next month. So they go on to let everybody reiterate what they've been telling us, that on April 8th, moon position, the moon will be positioned so that the entire disk of the sun will be blocked out in several U.S. states. They go on to tell people what those states are, and it will be in total darkness during the early afternoon. Okay, said about it drawing crowds across the nation. Going to have all these people coming. It's going to be a strain. It's going to be congested, the roadways, the hospitals. It's going to be a strain on the hospitals, because I'm not sure why. They're going to be looking up in the sky. Hopefully they got those little glasses or their eyes, and they're going to end up in the hospital, or they're going to be looking up when they're supposed to be looking a certain way. And if they're driving on the road, I don't know, but it's going to impact the local hospitals. Okay, so it says in this particular one, it says the concerns prompted Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly, to issue a disaster declaration. Wow. On March 4th, in which he said, in red, he said that the influx of visitors could drain our food and fuel supplies and strain our city and county infrastructure to quite possibly overcapacity. Okay, let me let that marinate. Let me sit in that for a second. So an actual judge issues a disaster declaration on March 4th for a solar eclipse, but all the other stuff that's happening in every single state, they don't. Is anybody else on the same wavelength as me? Okay. Like there isn't already a strain on our resources for a variety of other reasons that we all know what they are. I'm not going to go there with it because you guys already know. They don't, but they say it for this, a solar eclipse. They actually have declared a disaster declaration on March 4th. But it's all this other stuff that's going on, but yet they, as far as I'm aware, they didn't. Something that's already draining all of our resources, every resource that we've ever had or ever wished to have, but they didn't do it. But they're doing it for this literal solar eclipse that's going to last 4 minutes. Okay, let's go. Kelly singled out pet owners and urged them to purchase any supplies needed to tend to their animals a week before the eclipse. He says, I encourage you to stay off the roads and at home, if possible, on the day of the event, Kelly said. So on this solar eclipse, total, the message I'm getting is that you are to what? Stay home, stay off the roads, don't go to school, stock up on every possible thing you can think of. Yeah, okay. According to a webpage, about the disaster declaration that they did on March 4th. in Texas. Also, in the week preceding